On October 31st, 1998, in Massachusetts, 3 college students left their campus and drove out to Hassanamesit Woods. Caitlyn Richards and her friend Tiffany George planned to prank Caitlyn's boyfriend Justin Brentford. Only the night took a sinister turn when urban legend became reality. Out of the group of 3 that drove out to the woods that night, only one of them returned. This is the account Caitlyn Richards gave to the police department the following day. I'd only been dating Justin for a few months, but I did like him even though he was kind of goofy and obsessed with urban legends and conspiracy theories. The 3 of us, me, Justin, and Tiffany, were hanging out in a coffee shop. Justin had just found out about something freaky that had supposedly happened in Hassanamesit Woods, and he wouldn't stop going on about it. Apparently, a couple of students had driven out there to get some privacy. They were fooling about when the girl heard these weird sounds coming from outside of the car. The guy told her to ignore it, but she was freaked out, so to ease her mind, he got out of the car to check it out, and he was gone for ages, so she put on the radio to try and calm herself down and heard a news report warning that a lunatic from the local mental institute had escaped. She kept on hearing this knocking sound coming from the roof, so she got out of the car to look. There, on the roof, was the lunatic. He was knocking something against it, her boyfriend's head. As soon as Justin finished telling the story, he leaped out at Tiffany and pushed her off the couch. Coffee went everywhere and the waitress rushed over to us and gave us a dirty look as she cleaned it up. As usual, Justin thought it was hilarious. He kissed me goodbye before he left, but I saw Tiffany look at me, trouble in her eyes, and I knew she was up to something. She leaned across the table and said, "I think it's time Justin got a taste of his own urban legend reality." I didn't know what she had planned, but I knew it wouldn't be good. The problem is I'm just a people pleaser and I find it pretty much impossible to say no to anyone. She explained her plan to me, convinced Justin to go out to Hassanamesit Woods the following night on the way to the Halloween party in town and stage our own escaped lunatic car rooftop prank on him. Tiffany wanted to terrify him so much that he would stop with the annoying urban legend obsession and grow up. I didn't think this would work, but I ignored that uneasy feeling in my gut and reluctantly agreed to this plan. As predicted, it didn't take much persuading to get Justin to agree to go to Hassanamesit Woods. The following night, we headed out there, the nervous excitement clear in the chill fall air. Justin was dressed as a zombie and had this creepy dangling eyeball socket face mask that covered half of his face. Tiffany was dressed as the woman in the red dress from Resident Evil. She looked amazing, and I could tell from Justin's leering look that he thought she did too. I kept quiet, feeling lame in comparison in my Dollar Tree black cat costume. As soon as Tiffany drove us off campus, the mood shifted and that uneasy feeling wiggled in my gut. Justin was chugging a beer in the back seat of her blue Corolla with the squeaky brakes and going on about how we should make visiting locations of urban legends a thing. Tiffany kept on exchanging knowing looks with me. I smiled nervously at her, but inside, I felt sick with dread. My leg kept on hitting her backpack full of prank stuff that she'd put in front of my foot. I just wanted to go to the party. I didn't want to play these games. As the woods came into view, Tiffany went off-road and down the man-made track that went along the side of the woods. As the car bumped along the road, I gripped onto the side of the door and tried to calm my nerves. It was deserted out there and there was a dark eeriness to our surroundings. I saw Justin's reflection in the rearview mirror. He had his arms spread across the back headrests and his beer can balanced in between his knees. Tiffany looked at me, winked, and then purposely drove through a dip. His can flew into the air, swishing beer dregs all over him. He laughed. Tiffany scowled and then stopped the car. She opened her glove compartment, threw a packet of Kleenex, and said, "Clean my car up." Then she gave me a knowing look as she grabbed her backpack from my footwell and placed it on her lap. "I need a wee," she said as she turned and glared at Justin. "And I'm taking my backpack in case I need to whack a crazy person with it. My textbooks weigh a ton." He was half-heartedly wiping his knee with a Kleenex and just shrugged as he said, "Hey, do what you gotta do." I watched her leave, and then I put my hands on my legs, tapping my fingers against the hem of my itchy black dress. As soon as Tiffany was out of sight, Justin threw the Kleenex over his shoulder and climbed over the driver's seat. He stared through the window at the shadowy line of trees as if he was captivated by it. He stayed like that, frozen in time, before he opened the door and mumbled something about going looking for Tiffany. Justin leaving the car wasn't part of the plan. I was meant to keep him there until Tiffany jumped onto the car roof and pounded the basketball she had in her backpack, which we'd spent ages disguising as a head, against it. I tried grabbing his arm and telling him not to leave me here alone. He turned and smiled at me and told me he wouldn't be long. I didn't let go of him, but he let go of me, prying my fingers off him and pulling back out of reach. I watched him leave, the flickery interior car light highlighting the gloom of the car and reminding me that I was all alone. I started to panic, certain Tiffany was going to be mad at me for ruining the prank. This panic covered that deeper, uneasy feeling like a blanket and caused me to look past the nagging certainty that something was wrong. I don't know how much time passed. All I know is the silence and loneliness continued for some time. I stayed there, not daring to move. I felt the car begin to rock, and I heard these stamping sounds above me. I stared up at the car roof even though there was no sunroof. All I could do was imagine what was happening as I itched my arms and waited. The loud thud, thud, thud was expected, but it still echoed through my body and made me shiver. I stared at the door handle, knowing I'd have to go and tell Tiffany that I let Justin leave and I messed up the plan. I procrastinated, putting this off for as long as I could, when I heard another thud, thud, thud coming from the roof. Then I saw something roll down the windshield in a gush of red. I sat back in my seat and I stared at the chaos in front of me in confusion. Tiffany never said anything about doing this. This was a step way too far. As my brain tried to make sense of it all and the inside car light continued to flicker, I saw the object on the car hood, the bloodied basketball. I stared at blonde hair streaked red and lifeless eyes looking at me. I stared at it for I'm not sure how long. I gripped my hands to the edges of the seat, my body rigid with fear as I tried to work out if this was real or not. That was no basketball. That was Tiffany's blonde wig, matted and covered in blood. And those were her lifeless eyes staring back at me. Had the prank changed? Was it not on Justin anymore, but now on me? Through my frantic gasps of air and manic heartbeat, I slowly leaned forward so I could get a better look at the head. A thunderous bang sounded above me, and the car lurched as if someone was jumping off it. The head rolled off the hood and hit the ground with a squelching sound. I couldn't take it anymore. My gut was screaming at me that prank or not, I needed to leave. I swung open the door and I hurried out of the car. I made myself go around the front and stare at the round object that lay in a puddle. A head. A human head. There was a gaping wound where the neck used to be. One of the eyes came to life and twitched, a moving marble in the fleshy decay. I screamed, and then I ran. It wasn't a prank, it was real. That was Tiffany's head lying in that puddle. I couldn't make sense of any of it at that moment. All I could do was run into the blur of trees and just keep on running, my fear somehow guiding me through the darkness. I ran and I ran until I hit something with such force that I fell in a heap. I stared up at it, expecting to see gnarled branches. Instead, I let out a silent scream at what I saw. Dangling, lifeless limbs hung there, secured to a tree branch by a rope tied around the torso. I saw the blood dripping down the body, and I looked at the red dress, not knowing which was fabric and which was blood. Tiffany's blood. Tiffany's decapitated body. As I stared at this in disbelief, I heard the snapping of twigs and automatically held my breath. I wasn't alone out there. The lunatic that had done this was out here too. I remembered Justin and how he was out here somewhere. I couldn't even think about the danger he could be in when a cold, bloody hand stretched around me and covered my mouth. I tried to bash them off me, my eyes bulging in horror. They loosened their grip on me enough so I could turn and I see who it was. It was Justin, the fake eye dangling from its socket and a sinister look on his face. I looked at the smudged blood, vivid and real next to the dried fake blood from his costume, and then I looked at his hand, where he clutched a saw, the silver blades dripping with red. Nothing about that saw was fake. Everything about it was real. A part of me still wanted to believe that this was a prank, even though I knew it had gone beyond that now. No one was sick enough to construct a prank this horrific, yet my mind tried to find reason. I opened my mouth to speak, but he put a bloody finger to his lips to stop me. He laughed, a deep, crackling laugh, and then said, "Kate, we did it. We made it real. We can make them all real, one by one." I muttered out, "No." I didn't want to believe it, but I saw that pure delight in his eyes, the elation that he made the legend come to life. I managed to mutter, "You killed her." He gave one single nod, his smile widening. He tried reaching out to take my arm, and I stumbled backward into Tiffany's lifeless torso, causing it to swing and flail around me, the fabric of her red dress flapping into my mouth and leaving the taste of dirt, metal, and bitterness. My disorientation took over and I couldn't see properly in this gloom. I couldn't work out what to do. I heard him talking to me, saying how we could do this together. My mind was saying no on repeat, but I couldn't talk. I couldn't get the fabric out of my mouth. I couldn't leave. I don't know if he pushed me or if I fell, but I remember being down there in the mud, beneath Tiffany's hanging body. Justin leaned over me, the saw clutched in his hands. "Come on, Kate. We need to do this together," he said with ease, as if all of this was normal. He held out his hand to me, bloodied and tainted. I went to grab him, and then I used all the strength I had to shove him backward. I watched him fall against the tree, and the saw impaling into his own flesh as he fell. He looked at his wound in disbelief and spluttered out blood as he tried to say my name. I turned and I ran. I ran until someone believed me. Someone knew what I was saying was real. It was only then that I stopped running, and instead, I started to wail and shake in horror at what happened, at what he had done. He must have been planning this all along. He must have hidden the saw out there. I thought I knew Justin, but turns out I didn't know him at all. He was a monster, and I'd been oblivious to it for all this time. A man on his way back from a night shift discovered Caitlyn walking along the side of the road. At first, he mistook her words for drunken lies, but on seeing the fear in her eyes, he realized she meant what she said. He took her to the local police station and she gave her account. Tiffany and Justin's bodies were recovered from Hassanamesit Woods the following day. A report was issued claiming their deaths had been tragic accidents. Caitlyn's story became an urban legend, one retold over the years with changed names and twisted elements. But the essence of this horrific horror remains the same. For more scary horror and Halloween stories, please subscribe.